Hey everyone, I'm back again as promised, of course, with this video. Sorry for the delay. Of course, had to get myself a bit better and a bit more recovered before I came on here and talked to you about my favorite albums from 2023. I feel like a bit of a fraud here, and you'll see why, considering the choices I picked. But regardless, I just wanted to share with you guys what I personally loved. I know not everybody is going to agree with this list 100%, and that's fine. I suppose I didn't listen to all the biggest albums that people talked about last year, besides a few. So these are just my 5 personal favorites that I loved. There was a lot of great music to come out in 2023, more so than most years as of late. And I can't wait to talk about these records with you guys. But first, I'm just going to throw up on the screen here a few honorable mentions. And without further ado, let's crack right into the top 5 albums of 2023 according to Moa. At number 5, I have the Oppenheimer Motion Picture Soundtrack by none other than Ludwig Göransson. Of course, the cultural landmark that was Oppenheimer, one of the absolute best movies of the year. And of course, I think it goes without saying Ludwig Göransson's score to this is absolutely phenomenal. Just Can You Hear the Music alone is such an iconic piece of film music already, with all the arpeggiated patterns going back and forth and building to this, quite loud and powerful crescendo that comes in with the blaring horns. And I love how this soundtrack is composed of a bunch of droning and sliding strings and synths. They really make this feel so massive and so urgent, just like the film itself. It's very, very much a tension-filled, gripping drama that really is heightened by Göransson's music. Especially in the Trinity sequence with the track Trinity is some of the most propulsive, heart-pounding music I've heard in any movie, and I think builds the tension to such paramount heights that I don't think any other composer could have quite nailed it like Göransson did with his collaboration with Christopher Nolan this time around. The same could be said with the instrumental build on the track Kitty Comes to Testify. The way it mounts tension in the story causes for some unbelievable anxiety when you're watching the film. I especially feel this way about the abrasiveness of the timpani that builds by the end of this track. It truly is remarkable. And then there's Fusion, where you get this really cacophonous landscape of sounds that feel like they're mashing into each other and fusing, if you will. And I think yet again, it's that conflict within the music that really adds to the conflict in the film itself. And on the track Ground Zero, it sounds like there's electrified golf balls rolling around on the floor and building percussion and synths just whirling in the background. It's truly, truly tremendous. And I think the chaos that ensues on the track Destroy the World is a perfect way to encapsulate the ending of this film. Yet again, this film obviously I think is going to win the Oscar for Best Original Score, no doubt. And as you'll see, it isn't my favorite score from last year, but it's certainly more than respectable. I think some of it just sounds a bit similar in regards to its sound, and I don't think that there are as many memorable motifs as some of the greatest film scores of all time. But nevertheless, this is a unbelievable accomplishment from Göransson, who's already an Oscar winner for 2018's Black Panther, and I think that it might be his best score to date. We'll have to see, but I definitely think it's worthy of a win nonetheless, and definitely one of my favorite records that I heard from all of last year. And at number 4, we have Poor Things Original Motion Picture Soundtrack by Jerskin Fendrix. Yet again, another film score on this list, another film nominated for Best Picture with 11 Academy Awards. And this is the thing with this score, it is so out there. Just the bizarre, dissonant, accented strings and other instruments permeating all these songs is so left field and so avant-garde, but in a way that's still very motif ridden and accessible in some strange way. And I think it really makes this bizarre world that Yorgos Lanthimos creates in this film truly flourish and come to life. And I think it features some of the best musical cues of the entire year from any film. Tracks like I Just Hope She's Alright, which certainly invokes a very great session of furious jumping. And one of my favorites is absolutely Portuguese Dance number 2, with that now iconic dance scene between Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo. Just so bizarre, but yet again, it starts off in such a weird place, but it goes somewhere that's so archaic yet familiar and melodically pleasing. It's really, really a triumph, I think, across this entire score. And you got woodwinds, you got accordions, timpanis, distorted cello, even bagpipes at one point in the score. And also the grand organs that are used on this score really makes it sound like it was made in the lab of a mad scientist, almost fittingly so. And sure, it might be slightly repetitive, you could say, and maybe even boring at points. I don't necessarily think so, but it's never uninteresting, and I think that's what really makes this score stand out. Really glad this got the Oscar nomination for Best Original Score, and I think, for me, one of the most standout scores of the entire year. And at number 3, we have The Color Purple Original Motion Picture Soundtrack. Yet again, this is why I'm saying I feel like a bit of a fraud, because all I'm putting on here is movie albums, basically. But, you know, hear me out. This album, this soundtrack in particular, obviously adapted from the Broadway musical, which is the adaptation of the Alice Walker novel, of course. And I think that this soundtrack owes as much to John Lee Hooker in Muddy Waters in the blues, and of course gospel, more than it does musical theater. And I think that's what makes these songs really stand out musically, because this honestly has so many bangers and so many emotional highlights. Sure, the lyrics are pretty to the point for the most part, but yet again, the performers bring so much out of this material. I mean, obviously they're all heavy hitters when it comes to singers, but I think Taraji P. Henson and of course Fantasia Barrino stand out above all else. Danielle Brooks is amazing too, but I've never loved Hell No. I've felt like the hook, it does get stuck in your head though. It's still stuck in my head to this day. But I just feel like it's kind of generic in regards to its message, or at least in the way it portrays it. But it's still a good and catchy song, and it's very empowering. But I think the standouts are really the emotional numbers. But before I even get in that, I think Shug Avery is such a bombastic number that includes the whole cast, and it has a lot of moving parts. It's really, really complex and beautiful, and yet so energetic, full to the brim with energy. I also have to highlight Push the Button, which of course is Shug Avery's number when she enters in the bar that Harpo builds, and it's just filled with so much sexual innuendo, which matches the scene perfectly, in the most suggestive scene in the entire movie in that sense. But to me, you know, What About Love? The ballad between Celie and Shug is just absolutely amazing. Fantasia and Taraji P. Henson trading harmonies with each other, so beautiful. Of course, you have to mention Miss Celie's Pants is another great upbeat number. But yeah, I'm Here that Fantasia sings. My goodness, when I watch this film, it just brings tears to my eyes by the end of it. But I think the title track, The Color Purple, I mean, I've listened to this song probably over 100 times at this point. It is just stuck with me. It's so emotional, and especially that ending. My goodness, this song hits like a truck. every time I see it, but just hearing all these performers come together in unison in such a beautiful way, I think it's a perfect way to close the story about coming together and overcoming pain and forgiveness. It really is such a beautiful, beautiful soundtrack, and it would be even higher on this list if it weren't for the song Superpower, which is just a generic credit song sang by Fantasia that they had the shoehorn at the end of this album. But thankfully, I think the rest of the soundtrack more than makes up for it. This is really one of the best blues gospel albums, if you even want to put it in that category, because I feel in some ways it kind of transcends musical theater, and it's my third favorite album of 2023 on this list. And of course, my second favorite album of the year is one I reviewed on this channel in the On Wax review series, and that of course is Come Around and Love Me by Javelin Naganda. This is really, I would say, a hidden gem from 2023, but I think one of the year's absolute greatest finds. This guy is so talented. As a guitarist, I mean, he plays the instrumentals here, and of course as a singer, amazing, amazing voice. And this album perfectly harkens back to that era of the 60s and 70s Motown, with arrangements that sound like they're right from the Motor City themselves in the Motown office. It's absolutely incredible, especially the title track, which gets stuck in your head, very reminiscent of something like Mercy, Mercy Me. You know, like there's very, very much a what's going on feel this entire record. And if you haven't seen my review, you can check out my more full in-depth thoughts on it. But you know, just like songs like If You Don't Want My Love, That's All I Wanted From You, Just Like You Used To, which is one of the most seductive ballads on this entire album, probably my favorite song off of here. What a Difference She Made, probably the most lyrically inspired song on this entire record, because yet again, this is very much in the vein of what you would expect from a Motown record from the 60s and 70s, in the way of lyrics as well. Not that that is a bad thing at all. Give Me Another Day is another absolutely amazing song on this album. Yet again, it does sound a bit similar in scope, and I do hope that he isn't a one-trick pony, because this guy's insanely talented, and I hope in the next album you can hear his voice a bit better. The production sort of drowns him out sometimes, or masks what he's saying. But yet again, if you guys love soul music, if you love that era of music in general, this is an absolute must to listen to. And I think that if he continues on this path, if he evolves his sound a bit more, he could be one of the best talents that we see in the years to come. I'm certainly going to be on the lookout for him. And yes, this absolutely deserves a spot at number 2 on my 2023 list. And at my number 1, this is an album I didn't get a chance to review on the channel, but I knew I had to listen to it, considering that I have gotten so invested in this artist's back catalog up until this point, and that of course is easily Javelin by Sufjan Stevens. Luckily I just have the vinyl right here, fresh out of the shrink wrap. This album, quite honestly, I think is his most astounding and most focused work to date. Sure, it might not be as lyrically evocative from a storytelling standpoint, or musically innovative, transcendent as something like Illinois, but I think what he does here that's so amazing, he really captures that mysticism and that folk sound that he's become so well known for, with a variety of instruments, with booming choruses and backing vocals that really make this thing stand out. I think there's a bit of electronic music in there too. I feel like it's the perfect synthesis of everything that has defined Sufjan Stevens as an artist up until this point in time. And of course the heartbreaking context behind this album with the loss of his partner last year. Yet again, knowing that and listening to this and hearing what he has to say through this lyricism, it's so painful, it's so heartbreaking. And the second time I heard this, because I listened to this 3 times, second time I almost cried so many times, because, and that usually doesn't happen in an album, but just knowing what he was channeling at this point in time, and to create something so painful yet life-affirming out of it is really truly a testament to, I think, Sufjan's character. And yet again, so many great songs on here. A Running Start is such a beautiful, plucky folk ballad that just captures the wistfulness of love in a way that, you know, even Sufjan might have a hard time topping or equaling. I'm sure you could find some song in his back catalog that does. Of course, the heartbreaking Will Anybody Ever Love Me, an absolute standout, and I think one of his absolute best songs in general. Of course, the lyrics, will anybody ever love me? For good reasons, without grievance, not for sport. Oh my goodness, just, and yet again, the painful ways he describes himself being tortured in this song really captures that pain that I mentioned already that he was going through at the time. Of course, Everything That Rises is amazing. Genuflecting Ghost, So You Are Afraid is one of his most damning and personal songs. But Shit Talk is an 8.5 minute opus on this thing. Just sonically, the euphoric heights in which it reaches is really unparalleled to most of the stuff that he has done, at least in a very evocative sense, and it is easily my favorite. Well, I wouldn't say easily, because Will Anybody Ever Love Me is nothing to slouch at, but I really think Shit Talk is the best song on here and one of his absolute best songs of all time. Just from top to bottom, there's not a weak track on this record. Sure, some of it may sound a bit similar musically, but that's okay, because thematically this album is so strong. Yet again, even more so than any of his past records, which is saying a lot, because Sufjan has quite a few of them. But I think, yet again, I could understand anyone saying Illinois is his best album, but this one in particular, I think, is his absolute greatest achievement to date. And I really think it goes to show, you know, how much trial and tribulation can be used to pour into music and have that be an outlet to share something with the world, you know, try to communicate in a way which you need to use as a release, but also say something so profound and meaningful that applies to so many different people. I absolutely love Sufjan Stevens. I think he's one of the best singer-songwriters, definitely of this generation, but you could even make the argument for all time. And it's pieces of work, pieces of art like this that truly prove that this is one of the best albums of the decade so far, easily, and easily deserving of a spot as my favorite album of 2023. So yeah, guys, that's my list of my top 5 albums of 2023. What do you think? Do I need to cut off all the movie stuff? I'm hoping this next year I'll be able to listen to more stuff. You know, as I listen to more artists, I can listen to more discographies. That was certainly the case for Sufjan Stevens there, and I hope it's the case for many other great artists who are going to come out with great albums this year. Very much looking forward to it. And of course, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing here. Going to be a lot more music content coming soon, especially with the Smiles new album out, which I do plan on reviewing in the On Wax review series. Definitely something you're going to want to be on the lookout for, especially fans of Tom York and Radiohead and the Smile themselves. Definitely excited to listen and talk about that. But I also wanted to get on here and discuss about my experience at Virtual Sundance this year. My first experience with the Sundance Film Festival at all. And I'll put it up to you guys. You can let me know down in the comments below, but I am going to put a poll on the community tab here whether you want to see my reviews of the Sundance movies either as separate videos or as one longer, albeit condensed versions of those reviews, sort of like in a mini review fashion. Would love to hear what you think about that, and I will deliver on that, I do promise you. And of course, a lot more great content to be looking forward to in the weeks to come. So thank you for joining in with me today. Here's to a great 2024 when it comes to music, film, and otherwise. And yeah, guys, I will talk to you in the next video. Take it easy now.